Welcome to the Level 1 Lounge, where we give our uneducated take on everything and anything gaming. I'll be your host tonight. I am Rider Pride 639, and tonight we've got the usual suspects again. We've got Irish Bandit Rob, Agent Maverick, and of course from the In My House podcast, we have Monster Hospital. So, oh man, we've got a fun one for you guys here tonight. So we're going into the quarterfinals of our Mega March Madness gaming podcast, or gaming tournament, I guess you could say. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and pick up our controllers and start powering up here. So, as we always do with all of our podcasts, we always ask one burning question for the week. And this week's question, I've got a fun one here for you guys. If you guys could go back in time to play any game again for the very first time, which game would it be? Monster, let's start with you.
Oh, I'm going to say, after going through all the brackets thus far, it'd be between Mass Effect 2 or Metal Gear Solid. Experience that story again for the first time. There's stuff like from my childhood, obviously like Super Mario Brothers being the first game I really remember playing. It just, I don't think it would touch something like Mass Effect 2 or Metal Gear Solid. So many great games that you just want to experience again. I'm not one to I don't really replay a ton. I think Metal Gear Solid is the one game I've played over a dozen times.
You never replay
I don't
games.
Tend to replay.
Yeah, you never replay games. That says something.
Kind of a one
move
and
on
done.
to the next. Yeah, you get what you want out of them. What am I going to play Uncharted for over and over again? That story's not changing. There's nothing there after. It's the same. I mean, that's being said, Metal Gear story doesn't change either. But I think that narrative speaks more to me. But even then, I'm not seeing myself go back play Metal Gear Solid right now. But that'd probably be that or Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Well, I guess Mav, let's hear what you have to say.
Well, I would have said Uncharted 4, but no.
That's why I wanted to go to you next. I had a feeling you were going to say that.
No. Okay, so there's one that I really was going to say tonight, but I was going to say God of War from 2018. At first, and the reason being was because there was such a long wait between 3 and 2018. Like, Kratos tries to kill himself at the end of 3, and it's almost like it was never going to happen. But the thing is, that game, I can't say that one for sure, because the one that actually hit a different chord with me, because for me it came out of left field when I started playing it. I know you guys are expecting me to say The Witcher 3, but actually Ghost of Tsushima is the one that I wish that I had that opportunity to play again for the first time. I went in knowing nothing. I waited for reviews for this game to come out, and I was really on the fence because I'm not big into Souls-like games, and I thought that it could potentially be like a Souls-like, and I was very, very worried about it and the difficulty level, but it was not at all what I was expecting, and had such a great story, beautiful graphics, and it not only I had no expectations, and it just completely blew me away. And I think just going in with that thought of not knowing what to expect. And Chewy, if he was in here, he'd know what I'm saying. But I'd had the worst gaming hangover ever with this game. And what I mean by that is when I was done the game, it's like, okay, this game's over, it's done with. I platinumed it. Now what do I play? Nothing could ever meet any of my expectations with what I was playing next. And it took me another 6 months to almost a year before I found something that gave me that same feeling.
No, that's a very, very fair observation there. I definitely know what that kind of feels like too. You kind of get through that one game, and all of a sudden you're kind of just stuck. You're going through your library of games, and it's like and yeah, you're having a hard time trying to get motivated for the next one. But no, that's a pretty good story. Irish Bandit Rob, what would you go back in time to play?
What would I go back in time to play? I know what you're all expecting me to say.
Final Fantasy VII.
But no, I love the game and all, but no, I wouldn't want to go through that heartbreak all over again. God, what would I go back and play? I would probably something off the original Nintendo, honestly. I had to pick something off there because that after the video game crash in '83, Nintendo came back up, so I'd want to relive that all over again to where video games came to where they are today. So probably Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3. That's my answer.
There we go.
That would be the
There
one
we
I'd
go.
play again for the very first time.
That's it.
Fun story. Many years ago, they had a traveling exhibition for Super Mario 3 before it came out on the Nintendo. Big rig trailer. They brought it to Lawson Heights Mall here in Saskatoon. I begged and I pleaded with my dad, can we go so I can play this game even just for a little bit? Stood in line and I got sunstroke.
Oh no! Oh, that's awful, dude. I don't think I've ever heard that story from you. Oh my goodness, that's gotta be
Standing in
rough.
line, middle of summer. Yeah, and I got sunstroke. I look over and Dad, I'm not feeling so good.
Whoosh, dust.
Yep.
Oh goodness gracious! Oh man,
Sunstroke, not
I
Thanos
don't know.
snapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how I come back from that trying to top that. I mean, I definitely didn't get sunstroke on anything like that, but if I had to pick a game to go back to and play again for the very first time, I know this one will make Monsters smile a little bit. But if I had to go back and play one, we talked about this one before. We even had to have Monster appeal it. But I'd go back and play Chrono Trigger.
That is a good pick. That is a good pick.
Better.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% Chrono Trigger. The game was fantastic. I mean, like I said, as much as I loved Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger, it was the first. It was the first one in that series. I mean, that's that one probably holds the most memories for me when it came to those kinds of classic games. But Monster had it right from there. Like, there's so many on that list that I could play.
Yeah.
Like to play Battletoads for the first time, to play Double Dragon for the first time. Like I could go on and on. Like even going to the PlayStation. Like if I had to pick a PlayStation game, like to play the original Gran Turismo for the first time. Come on, that game was fantastic. But yeah, no, Chrono Trigger was 100% my go back in time pick. It's just pretty much like we said in the podcast before when we were arguing for and against it, whatnot. The gameplay, the music, the tech system, Robo and Frog.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play that PlayStation Origins one again with the cutscenes. Like when they actually did the animated cutscenes for it. Like
that's the one I played. It was awesome.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Like I think we were discussing before too about the PC port of Chrono Trigger, and I kind of warned people already on that one, saying you might want to stay away from that one. It's kind of doo doo.
That's how I feel about when I played Final Fantasy VIII on PC as well. Like I played it on a PlayStation, but Final Fantasy VIII on PC when it released was trash.
Mm-hmm.
It's trash.
Still is. Can confirm. Yeah. It's in my Steam library.
It's still bad on PC.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on to our next section, we have a few pieces of gaming news to discuss. The first article that we're going to talk about here revolves around PlayStation and Bungie's acquisition and how the Sony studios have kind of viewed this particular acquisition as a bit of a failure. So for those who don't know, Bungie is most known for its work on Halo and Destiny games. They've also been struggling with the layoffs as of late. Bungie was originally acquired for $3.6 billion, but they're now shifting focus to recoup their losses from Destiny 2, including its newest DLC, Lightfall. Apparently, player counts have been steadily dropping since the release of the expansion, and it is possible that Sony may potentially do a complete takeover of the Bungie studios at a later date. Mav, you got looks like you got the way in.
They should take over. They should absolutely take over. But here's the thing. Bungie needs to let Destiny die. At least Destiny 2 die. Hold on. What I'm saying is work on Destiny 3 you'll get your player count back. And
Maybe.
Monster and I were talking about this afternoon. The whole reason Sony bought Bungie was so that they could focus on live service games. They had 13 or 14 live service games that have been planned. But I'm a Destiny fan here. I bought the collector's edition. Well, was it the collector's edition? It was the one that included the DLCs. The biggest issue I have with that game, and one of the reasons why I will never go back to it, is I spent all of this money. I spent $130 on the game to have access to the full original game and both DLCs, and now I can play neither of them. You don't have access to any of those missions anymore. You can't start a character from a base level and develop it. You get access to.
No, you can't.
It's ridiculous. I've paid for that content. Give me the content. That's my argument with that. Destiny 3 needs to be a thing. Destiny 2 needs to go away.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that point too. I think I had that problem when Destiny was released on PC, shortly after the console release. I bought because I figured, it'll be kind of fun to play. So I played it, enjoyed it for about the first month, and then the new DLC hit, and my progression was completely blocked unless I bought the DLC. So, I didn't even get into the first DLC before I shelved and said, you know what, no, this ain't worth my time. So,
see, and I will say this.
Understand it.
I will say this though too. One of the biggest things for me is having a Destiny replacement. We were I was hoping it was going to be Anthem, and now I feel like I kind of have one now with Helldivers 2. And the thing is, and that's the thing. Like I haven't felt like I've had a game that I can just jump into and play with buddies until Helldivers has come out. And that's the thing that I miss. It's not the game itself and just the content. It's gaming with friends. Because Irish Bandit Rob, was with me on this too. Like he was avid into Destiny 2. Mm-hmm. He's deleted it. He's not playing it anymore either.
Mine was for more personal reasons, but
yeah,
the same premise.
Yeah.
Destiny 2, when it came out, much like Destiny, should have been the best game of that year.
But
the only downfall is they tried to. Go ahead.
When Destiny 2 came out, didn't it have like a bunch of bugs and was just
every game
pretty much unplayable?
Yeah, I mean that's. Well, it was playable. I don't know about the console release, but like for the PC one,
the console release was.
But
console was fine.
This is a game with incredible shooting from a pedigree of those Halo guys. The shooting is so good in Destiny.
Oh yeah,
it's so good. Destiny misstepped by saying we're a role-playing game, and you're just not. Just not. Here's our world. It's your story. It's the Destiny story. You get all the weapons the same. We all know the path you get them.
I don't have time.
When you don't like this game because they took away that content, it's literally by definition how live service is going to work every time. Every time. They move on to get new player base in, so they get you at a level where you can jump into the newest possible content. It is not going to change. It's not going anywhere. Helldivers 2 is going to release an expansion, or once that life cycle ends and they go, Helldivers 2 is just going to be free. We've maximized all the sales we can get out of it, so let's try to hit it on more audiences by putting it out as a $0 game until we do Helldivers 3. And they're going to make content too, where it's like, we've bumped you up here so you can see this new content we've put in. You need to keep players jumping on. That's why Justice League will do the same when it goes free, which is going to. Destiny 2 base game is free. You can install Destiny and start playing it. You choose to buy the content. There is game there for you. This is the strategy. It sucks for Sony because you're like, here's almost $4 billion we spent on a company to come help us learn live service. In that time, the Twisted Metal project's gone, and Last of Us's live service game is gone. You're already off the board. Nope, we're not doing it.
And those are games that we know of, right? Like that's the thing. We don't know how many.
I think that their stuff has too much money in it. Buckhorn's coming out. That thing's going to be live service. I think they're too far in to just cut and run from that.
I think Sony will be able to recover their money with Bungie, at some point, but they just have to find a way to utilize them. They're going, oh well, Destiny 2 is not doing well. Yeah, it's not going to. It's an old game. You block people from content. There's no story because you know what? I don't have time to explain things I don't understand, or I don't have time to explain things I don't.
There's never
Reasons why I don't
They have a website to read their story. There's never been story in Destiny.
Oh,
Ever. Go read it. I'll send you the link to the website where you can go read all the Destiny lore. They can't be bothered to put it in their actual game. It's not like it's driving players back. People are going to buy this new expansion. I watched their dev. I thought their horde mode looked fine. I think that's going to get well received. I think people are going to play it again. It'll go through the same 3 months, and they'll be like, "That's it." When Destiny launched, and it was just like, "Man, this is just that beta," but they're like, "Just wait a month. We're going to put that raid in there." Like, why isn't it in there? Why isn't the content there for us already? That drip feed, like you slowly get used to it. This is why my issue with live services. Like, I'm playing in-game Justice League, and guess what? I'm doing a lot of the same things until season 1 comes out. And I know that's when it's like, here's varied mission types. It's how these games work. Live service is fickle. I say too, I'm like you laughed today. That's right. And today it was just when you laughed at the Ghostbusters collab, but I'm like, but you can't be in for the Witcher one then. Because there is some Ghostbusters fans out there who will love Ghostbusters stuff in Destiny. There's people who own both consoles to play Destiny on both. It's insanity. Just for the grind.
That's the one I've never quite understood myself, but at the same time, it's also one of those things I can kind of understand it. And like, okay, if I have it on PC and then I have it on a console that I can play downstairs, okay, that kind of makes sense. But if you have two consoles on the same TV and you buy 2 copies of it, one for each, that one kind of, I don't know, I don't quite get that one.
It's crossplay. Now the thing is, for me, like I bought Division 2 on PlayStation and Xbox, both the Ultimate Editions. And the reason why I did that was because I've got friends like Monster on Xbox, and I paid $20 for that version, by the way, with the DLC. So I got it on sale before anyone says anything about it. Got it on sale. With getting it on PlayStation, I started with the base game, and eventually the season pass came out and went on sale as well. There was another sale for the expansion, all of that, picked that all up. But there's no crossplay for that game. That's the reason why I did it.
Destiny,
there's no way. Yeah, there's no way I would buy Destiny on both systems. Forget it. There's crossplay for a reason.
There is, but people still just go because of the account specific building those same characters. It's still done.
I think more games will probably move away from single system crossplay, or if you really want to even call it crossplay at that stage, but
playing with your friends crossplay, I think, has to be there.
I think so too.
I think it does. Yeah. But for Sony now, like, listen, the plan is live service. Dollars make sense. They need to maximize more off a game's life cycle. Like they thought, we're getting the Destiny guys, we're getting the king of live service. At that time, things started shifting. Extraction shooters became popular. Hence Marathon. Marathon's shipping on everything. It's their second party to Sony. They're putting Marathon on Xbox. Marathon's coming to PC. Marathon just fired their director. Like, Bungie is not in a good space, but also it could be a Sony move to be like, no, we'll just divide the studio, and once you get your last expansion out, we'll deal.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing? Maybe. Put them up for sale.
I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they're going to utilize them, try to recover their money. I mean,
but they can just dissolve them into other studios.
Yeah,
it's theirs. It's their purchase. Yeah. I would just say this: who wants them? Sell it
off to the highest bidder.
That's it. Let's send them back to Microsoft. Work on Halo again.
Imagine.
Yeah.
You wanted to leave to do this. Let's get you back and do Halo.
Well, it's not like 343's been doing that much with Halo right now either. But
Halo Infinite's a great game that people don't play.
The story was great. I enjoyed the story for that one. Multiplayer.
Its multiplayer was great. They didn't support it. No maps came out. Yeah. But for Sony, I get it. Go ahead. Sorry, Ryder.
No
Good
worries.
segue.
Yeah, it's a good segue into the next part. So speaking of Sony, they are also delaying the production of more PSVR2 units to try and clear out a massive backlog of unsold VR units. So I had no idea that there was that big of a backlog for PSVR. I mean, I've been kind of wanting to get into it myself, just because Chewy talks about it all the frickin' time, and he absolutely rants and raves about it. But
I want to tell you right now, you're buying a $700 paperweight right now.
pretty much, yeah. So, so according to sources, Sony has produced about 2 million units, and their successes have been called into question since Sony announced a number of upcoming games for the PSVR, but none of which were first party. There was also the layoffs that occurred recently, and it sounds like their VR focused studio based out of London is actually going to be earmarked for closure. So this backlog of VR units are likely going to stay a backlog by the sounds of things.
That's
I
what I
don't
was
know how much
thinking.
more
You
they can sell.
You want to sell them? Give us games. That's the whole reason why they're sitting on the shelves right now. Is there's no games for them. Like you got Horizon, which is a climbing simulator, which you can get with Quest and Meta. Like it, there's no games for it right now. The only reason why I would pick it up is VR for Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil Village. And the thing is, as stated, they're both third-party games, and I am not going to pay $750 for a device for 2 games.
Yeah,
It's
and that's kind of my take on it too. Because
crazy.
the only one I'd be interested in would be Beat Saber.
Right, like there's no reason. You want people to buy it, make better games, make more games for it. Their catalog selection was not great for when it launched. I was excited for it. I wanted to buy one, and then I saw the game list. Pass.
The thing is $800 plus a PS5.
Yeah,
Get
Yeah,
real.
you need the console for it
Those
too.
are-
That's
Mm-hmm.
The price to install that at a Quest.
yeah.
At a Quest.
yeah.
It's like when Sony tried to really buy into 3D during the PlayStation 3. Put out their own 3D little TV with a copy of MotorStorm. Stop with the goddamn gimmicks. Video game company. You sell software just fine. You need VR in your catalog. You move software not having VR. Sure, you want to do it because you did it before. Like, yeah, we can make this work. You're not going to make it work. Unless you're serious about VR or using a Quest.
Here's the thing. Like I do have to say, like I haven't personally used it, but I've listened to a bunch of reviews and I've done a little back research about it. It is one of the best VR units that you could buy. Period. It's contoured to people's faces better. The controls are really good. Everything is fantastic with it, except the games. That's the thing. But no, Monster, other than that, you're absolutely right. But
Yeah, and I mean,
you're not
aesthetics are
gonna
only
you're not
get you
gonna
so
spend
far.
you're not gonna spend $1,600 for comfort for games that for a device that's going to sit on the shelf.
I mean, if you're going to spend
Like it is-
$1,600 for comfort, go buy a Herman Miller chair. And I mean,
Yeah.
because those things are quite literally $1,600 for those playing the home game.
It's
So-
like it's wild that you have to lay off all these people and you're just like, we're sitting on PSVR 2. Like they're sitting in a warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
They're not moving. How significant of a price drop can you make that when they're just sitting there?
And I mean, at
You
this
want to
stage,
try to get something to
I highly doubt they'd even be able to give them away at this stage, especially with
it
no
seems like it.
catalog. I mean, if you got no games to play on them, people are going to be looking at this VR and going, "Well, what the hell am I going to do with this?"
There's that price of entry.
Yeah. And again, same thing,
Insanity.
needing the PS5.
Needing the PlayStation 5 for it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, on to the next particular one. Again, this is not exactly a good piece of news, but Knights of the Old Republic has been reportedly delayed for at least another year. So this is another game that's been we're not sure if this one's a dead duck in the water. Where most of us are fairly confident it is, but they keep kind of kicking that particular can down the road. So since the remake was announced in 2021, it's basically been stuck in dev hell. Is basically the best way to put it. It was first delayed in July of 2022. Then it was shifted to another studio shortly thereafter, which was Saber Interactive. And it's been basically radio silence ever since. But now the reports that are surfacing that the Embracer Group, the original group that was supposed to take on the project, is actually selling off Saber Interactive. But the rumor in the mill is that the Knights of the Old Republic remake licensing is going to go with the Saber Interactive Group. So the actual project is not getting kiboshed, if Saber Interactive actually gets sold off. But in that regards, if people are kind of holding their breath for a 2025 release date, don't. It's you're gonna go in the face.
There is one piece of good news with this, because the thing is, when I seen this piece of news, it sucks it's being delayed for a year, but this also means it's still coming out. From every single news story that I had heard up until this point, it was supposed to be dead. They're not producing it anymore. They're not making it anymore. This proves all of those stories are false. I will gladly wait a year if I can get my hands on this game and actually play it. So
I'll disagree with you on that.
You know what?
One.
I will say this. Take your time. Do the game justice. Delay as long as you need. Just please don't make it a 10-year development cycle, because that doesn't work. Beyond Good and Evil 2, for an example.
At this stage of the game, with
that,
with as many delays as there have been, with as many delays as there has been, though, at this stage, I am not going to believe it ever is going to get released until they actually come out with something concrete. Until then, it's dead.
Saber, save yourself all the hassle in the world.
Yeah.
Stop making
I'm not
looking.
I'm not going to look forward to it. I'm not going to hold my breath for it. I'm not going to bother paying to any news articles on it. Give me a release. Say it's coming out.
And I know you're in a position now. Saber just like, someone acquire us.
Yeah.
We have this. Like, we have something to bring. Then you're going to get picked up, and you still got to go spend more money. Knights of the Old Republic remake. I'm making a brand new Star Wars game. They're just making Knights of the Old Republic again.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they're making it that high res either. What has been shown on this thing?
Absolutely.
It's supposed to be a complete. It is supposed to be a remake, but we don't. We really don't know anything. You're right.
Exactly.
You can go and play this game. It's backwards compatible on an Xbox. I'm pretty sure you can get it on PC.
Yeah.
You can play this game. If graphics are the only thing holding you back, grow up. It's still an incredible video game. You could go and play it, and for far cheaper than what it would be for Saber to release it at $90. There you go.
You can get it on your phone.
And you'll have an incredible experience.
Yeah. Exactly.
Where peak of its powers.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Other than that, the last little bit of news here that we got here, just a little bit of a snippet here about 343 Studios are apparently hiring for an upcoming Halo game.
Sorry, I had to add that.
What kind of news have you got on that?
I had to add that. I came up on it here the other day. So I don't know how many people have actually been hired, but they do have postings on their site right now. The rumor was it was supposed to be released this year. That's not going to happen. But
the Battle Royale was supposed to be released this year. Turns out that's not shelved either completely. They're just shifting to Unreal Engine 5.
But you know what?
They're doing in-house. They're going to go to Unreal. Good for them.
I'm excited for another Halo game. Infinite. Look, Halo's always left open at the end of every single game. And you know what? I would love to see the direction on where this goes again. So I'm very excited to hear that with all the layoffs and stuff that are happening, there's at least a developer right now hiring. And that at least means something at this point. So good for you, 343. Looking forward to seeing what you guys have coming out. They're supposed to have some kind of details released later this year, from what I understand.
Oh, maybe we'll see some more information at Summer Game Fest. Probably not like a release trailer or anything like that, but they might have like a dev announcement or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So that's a whole other topic of conversation and a whole other podcast that will be coming in the future as well. So, all right. So now that we've gotten through all of that, we've powered up, everything's warmed up. It's time to get to level 1. So, Mega March Madness, man, we've had a absolutely grueling couple of weeks here with play-ins, the divisional playoffs. We've arrived now at the quarterfinals. There are 16 games that remain on the brackets right now, and they're all going to battle it out for a chance to see who takes home the inaugural level 1 championship. So, who's going to take one step closer? Who is going to be left behind in the dust? Well, we're going to start with our very, very first matchup, and this one's going to be an absolute slobber knocker. We have got my particular pick, Baldur's Gate 3 versus Irish Bandit Rob's pick of Final Fantasy VIII. So, Rob, would you like to do the honors and go first?
Oh, sure. I kind of like how this. I kind of like how this is done with 2 of my picks at the beginning and the very end. It's funny how what they are too, but we'll get to that one later. Oh God, part of me feels like I should concede this, but part of me still wants to at least put the case in, and even if Baldur's Gate 3 wins, hey, it's totally fine. Final Fantasy VIII was just an improvement for the Final Fantasy series. Better graphics to a point. We still make that joke of, "Oh, you're the best looking guy here."
Yeah.
Messed up wall face. Sure, we still make that joke, but better graphics, better music, better experience, better.
How's that junctioning system?
Yeah, the junctioning system
Still
is
broken.
Junctioning system.
I just wanted
But,
a
by the
reaction
way,
of a monster for that one.
just to clarify, when I say it's broken, I mean when you know how to use it right, it's
When you know how to use it
fantastic.
right, yes.
Yeah, you know how to use it right. It is amazing. I absolutely love it. Just for the record, just to be clear, Monster. So when I say it's broken,
It's really good.
I mean that you can make your characters absolute powerhouses.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what I mean.
But on the flip side of that, you're sitting there for like an hour at least drawing these abilities from your enemies.
The grind was very real.
The grind was very real. But other than that, and it also had a great story when you're going between 2 timelines, between Squall and his squad and Laguna and his squad. And just seeing how they intersect together was really, I feel it was really well done. For me, it was a very enjoyable game. The story flowed very, very well, and the characters were well done. And yeah, that's my argument.
All right. Well,
So let's hear what the winner has to say.
I mean, what else is there to say about Baldur's Gate 3? Like, when it comes to the storytelling, like Larian Studios has released nothing but bangers as of late. Between Divinity: Original Sin, the second one as well. But with Baldur's Gate 3, they absolutely smashed it out of the park with the storytelling. And the amount of storytelling and the variance in the storytelling. Every single decision that you make changes things later on down the road, like especially when you get to chapter 2, and there's 2 whole different worlds that you can explore. Sometimes at the same time, sometimes you can only access one. It all depends on what you choose before then. You can betray your friends. You can absolutely slaughter your enemies with the ridiculous monk fighter rogue combo that I came up with, where every single one of your attacks is a sneak attack and it's automatically critical hit. So yeah, you can have all kinds of fun with things like that. And the fact that it's D&D, it's endearing to a lot of other people as well. I mean, D&D has been around for literal decades, longer than Final Fantasy has been out. So I mean, like I think that's the biggest argument that I can make in comparison to Final Fantasy
one thing wrong with Baldur's Gate 3.
And
there's one thing. Where's my goddamn Goliath barbarian? That's the only that's the only thing wrong. I want a damn Goliath. That's it. That's my only beef with the game.
There's no, they haven't said no to adding additional classes and things like that.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
They eventually will, but at the same time, and this is where Final Fantasy VIII doesn't get to have this particular conversation, the modding community in Baldur's Gate 3 is absolutely fantastic. There are so many great mods that you can do for the game to improve the quality of life. To make things a little bit easier for you. If you're like you can get a pair of underwear that literally adds adds plus 20 to every single one of your stats. It's kind of hilarious when you think about it, but they add additional character customizations for the characters that are there. They added a Goliath class if you really want to get to it. What can I say? Baldur's Gate 3 is it's got everything and then some.
So I have played both of these games. I've mentioned this before. Final Fantasy VIII. Baldur's Gate I have not.
You knew that answer.
That being said, I'm still going to have to go with Baldur's Gate 3 on this, just for the simple fact that the amount of time that I spent playing that game and still not finishing it, the direction that the characters can go, the customization, all of that. The thing is, and as you said, everything impacts the world, every decision that you make. There's no changes with Final Fantasy VIII. You have the story. That's it. There's nothing new to add. But I realize it's an older game. I understand all that. I get it.
I'm taking age right out of it.
I can't.
Like it, old or new. All right, remember that when it's the story's over argument. That's all there is. Let's remember that. I guess my question for Ryder: do you think in 10 years people are going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3 like people talk about Final Fantasy 8?
I think so.
You think so?
I do honestly think so.
Yeah.
I think people aren't talking about Neverwinter that way.
And nor should they, because Neverwinter. Yeah. Are you talking like the original Neverwinter Nights, or are you talking about Neverwinter the MMO?
No, I'll say Neverwinter Nights, or even Divinity. Yeah. Great game, but I don't see a lot of people talking Divinity. Baldur's Gate could be different. I'm asking you because you played it. You're in it. Are people going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3 the same way people talk about Final Fantasy 8 in 10 years?
I believe so. I honestly believe that they will talk about it like this in 10 years' time. I think Baldur's Gate 3 will have a bit more added onto it as the year, maybe as the next few years go by. Maybe not, like 5-10 years from now, but I have a feeling they're going to expand the world a little bit, add more story to it, and it's going to keep the game running for a little bit longer, which may, in that 10-year time frame, might make the conversation still feel a little fresher.
I will also say I believe that this game inspired developers to make different decisions with how games are being created, and I think we don't know the outcome that's going to happen now, but at this point, but I think that there's going to be a lot of inspiration taken from this game, and that's one of the reasons why I got to go with Baldur's Gate 3.
Would it be more inspiration, or is it more just a swift kick in the butt and Larian saying, "Hey, look what we did. What have you got?"
A little bit from column A, a little bit of column B.
All right.
Can't speak to Baldur's Gate. I only played Final Fantasy 8 in this conversation. So, like, by default, I would pick Final Fantasy 8. Rob, unfortunately, when you start your conversation with, you should concede. Is that argument good to beat Final Fantasy 8? That's the big question. We've heard the arguments about these games. Baldur's Gate, Behemoth. Played half of it. Average played half of it.
Half of probably 95% of the rest of his playlist.
It's your call. If you feel that passionately, because I'm saying Final Fantasy VIII because it's the only one I've played.
No, I put it in my case, so I'm not conceding at this point. So
all right, so we got obviously one for each, and then one for each again. I don't know. How do we want to resolve this? Do we want to do a dice roll again?
Bring out the dice.
Yeah. Crazy way to start. A crazy way to start.
I have a feeling we're probably going to need more dice rolls.
Even Final Fantasy VIII odds Baldur's Gate 3. Another 20-sided die, and it's an 8.
All right, so Final Fantasy VIII.
That's kind of fitting.
Whoa!
That's kind of fitting.
Final Fantasy VIII wins with an 8. That's pretty good, actually.
That's a sign. That's a
That's
sign.
All right, Final Fantasy
I'm
VIII.
actually a little shocked by that one, to be honest.
Same.
By virtue of tiebreaker, Final Fantasy VIII advances over Baldur's Gate 3. Well, that's unfortunate. I'm very sad about that.
I'm surprised.
I will
Underdog
leave.
wins.
I will leave a spot for you in the loser circle because I
All
think
right.
I've got one game left.
I
I think two.
think you're maybe 2. Hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sonic
I think
and
you're-
Witcher 3.
I think you're gonna feel better with the next one.
I think so.
I think you're gonna feel better. I think you will.
Speaking of some very, very classic juggernauts, and again, we're going with apparently a bunch of my picks actually made it. I didn't even realize how many I had actually make it through. But we've got myself with another pick, Super Mario 64, versus Monster's pick of
Chrono Cross.
Trigger. No, it is Chrono Trigger. Yeah, we let Monster say his piece, and Monster gets to say his piece yet again.
Yeah, I had to. I'm sorry, pal.
I'll say this: it's real tough for me, but in the grand scheme of the bracket, I don't think anything should beat Super Mario 64. I really don't.
This is, yeah.
Looking at it, that is gold standard. The plumber is platforming. Everyone still does it. Everyone's still doing it that way. And it still works, and it's still awesome.
And it's still a major part of the speedrunning community even today.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, man, what Super Mario 64 did and is still doing is incredible. Chrono Trigger is my favorite JRPG. It's close with that and Earthbound, but JRPGs have gotten better. Have. Ask Final Fantasy 7. I'm a Persona man. I think the genre is ever evolving in better ways. Super Mario 64, Mario's template is still seen across any type of 3D platformer. Still. Where'd you get it? Super Mario 64. How are we doing it? Just like Super Mario 64. It's the most important 3D platformer of all time.
And I mean, you probably poll 100 people. The majority of them are going to say, "What's your favorite Mario game out of all of them that exist?" The majority is going to go Super Mario 64. Super Mario 3 might take it a close second.
It's hard because like Super Mario World is also on this list, which is I love Super Mario World. Super Mario 64 is just, it can't be denied. It conceding, even put up a stink with Chrono Trigger like I did. But when you're coming up against Super Mario 64, like I don't feel like it's a loss.
Yeah, no,
like
Super Mario 64 is the blueprint for pretty much any 3D platformer. Yeah, exactly like you said.
You can change power-ups or what Mario uses. It's that template.
I will also say this. Super Mario 64 is one of the first system sellers that I'm aware of. People bought 64s for that game.
People bought Nintendo because of Mario always.
Yes, I understand.
Always.
But, and the thing is, I'm going to say this too. I played Super Mario 64. I haven't played Chrono Trigger. I know that's a shame. I know. But I've played Mario 64.
Get the PlayStation remastered version. I think you'd enjoy it, actually. But
yeah.
So yeah. You can play that one halfway through and shelve it later.
Man,
right.
My ever-growing backlog. I swear to God.
This wouldn't happen if you just finish your games, man.
Yeah. One at a time.
Or not gone back and played every single game that I own.
There's that too.
Yeah, there, take a page out of the Monsters book. One and done.
Not a chance. Okay, so
tell me about
Super Mario 64. Then we agree with that.
Sounds like Super Mario 64 is the unanimous decision here.
I was going to say Chrono Trigger, but sure.
Oh, okay. Okay, not quite so unanimous then. That's fine.
Not majority rule.
All right, next up, round 3. And again, a third pick of mine. And we've got two absolute juggernauts, basically the juggernaut and the juggernaut that started it all. So we've got my pick with Final Fantasy XIV, and we have Irish Bandit Rob's pick of the original Final Fantasy 1. Holy crap, I'm gonna have a hard time with this one because of everything that I basically just said. Final Fantasy XIV Online is an absolute juggernaut of a Final Fantasy game. It's got millions of players concurrently. It's going to add millions of players here in a couple of short months with the release of the new Dawn Trail expansion. But Final Fantasy 1, man, is the one.
It's the one.
It's the one that started it all. Without Final Fantasy 1, we wouldn't be able to talk about Final Fantasy 14 today.
Took the words right out of my mouth. That was going to be my argument there.
Yeah, but on the flip side of things, one of my main arguments for Final Fantasy XIV is that you get to relive some of that Final Fantasy 1 nostalgia. And I remember posting this in our Discord. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to watch it, but one of the raid fights that I posted was a fight against Chaos with a remastered rendition of the original Final Fantasy 1 battle music, which, by the way, absolute chef's kiss. The fight itself was actually trash. It was a terrible fight. When Monster and Mav and you two go up against that one, you can actually access that particular fight in the free trial. I believe that one is available in the Stormblood expansion. When you come across that one, it's one of the side quests that you can get to. Basically, the long story short, when you get to these particular side quests are basically love letters to previous Final Fantasies. You'll see them and you'll understand when you actually see them. This was one of the fights, was against Chaos. But yeah, the actual fight itself, it was really, really difficult. Even for a seasoned veteran like myself. And yeah, it wasn't very, very well received. But that's my argument for Final Fantasy XIV. Rob, you're up.
Well, you made a good case for me already, saying that it was the game that started it all. Yeah, that's basically it. It's the game that started a juggernaut. There would be no Final Fantasy XIV. There would be no Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth without the original Final Fantasy. If Square would have never decided to go with Final Fantasy and make that game, we wouldn't be here today talking about it. If Final Fantasy, again, on the flip side of this, if Final Fantasy would have flopped, we wouldn't be talking about any of this, but it didn't.
Wasn't there a possibility that we wouldn't even be talking about Square Enix if it wasn't for Final Fantasy as well?
Yeah, absolutely. This was basically their swan song that ended up becoming the hit that it is today. They were about to shutter the doors, and it's like, all right, well, we've got one game left in the budget. Here's Final Fantasy. And here we are.
Yeah. Which, looking back on it now, Final Fantasy was kind of a different title, but I mean, it suits it.
It was intentionally named that way because they knew that this was the final piece. Yeah. This was the last piece of the puzzle that was going to basically make or break them. And sure enough, it definitely made them.
Even with that title, not knowing that story, the sense of urgency is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why is it called Final Fantasy? You're putting that in. Let's find out why. Like it drives you when titles could sell it. Holding a box could do it. No game trailers. There's no easy access to reviews. You went into the store to rent it, or you had it and bought it, and we're just like, here we go. I know nothing about it.
You looked on the store shelves and was like, what is that? And you saw the cover and said Final Fantasy. It's like, what is that? That looks interesting. This is, day and age, like Monster was saying, we didn't have trailers hyping it up. It was just
exactly. I
word of mouth,
remember I remember going to the video store and seeing Final Fantasy 9 on the shelf, and I'd never heard of I played Final Fantasy 7, I played Final Fantasy 8. I see Final Fantasy 9 on the shelf. I didn't need any further convincing to rent that game.
Nope.
It said Final Fantasy in the title. It's in my hands. That's as far as they needed to go.
Yep, absolutely. But there wouldn't be any of that without Final Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. But let's hear from Monster and Mav here what they think. I already know what I'm thinking, but I want to hear from them first.
Mav, what's yours?
I think I'm going to have to go Final Fantasy. Look, the thing is, just for the simple fact that
It's two.
with this situation, yeah, I got to work on that. Okay, Final Fantasy came out. We wouldn't be talking about Square. Like,
Right.
Square would be gone. We wouldn't have anything without Final Fantasy. You know, even Tomb Raider. I know, like, I absolutely love that series. Tomb Raider wouldn't be a thing right now.
It would.
Square
Kratos made it.
sure, but I mean, we wouldn't have those renditions that Square put out. My point is that Square is such a beloved developer of mine and of Riders and of Bandits. Final Fantasy is what pulled the first one, is what gave them the opportunity to get their shit together, their stuff together, pardon me, and put out all of these games that we know and love today. Without Final Fantasy, who knows what we would have now for
Without
Square.
Final Fantasy, there'd be no Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, that's
True.
true.
No Kingdom Hearts.
No Kingdom Hearts.
Beloved the
Oh,
Bouncer from PlayStation 2.
Sorry, Ryder. I'm going the original Final Fantasy. Like,
And the thing about this, there's no bad decision here. Honestly and truthfully,
Oh, no, absolutely not.
I played 1. So,
And everything in between.
and everything in between. Well, almost, but
Almost everything in between.
It's-
Yeah, same here.
Monster.
It's times like this where I really wish I did get into that trial for 14 to see how rich the systems are. Right? Like, granted, it's an MMO, so it's not going to be traditional Final Fantasy by any stretch, but not to say how deep the systems are in that game. Because again, at the end of the day, we're picking the better game, right? I've played Final Fantasy 1 a lot and across different platforms. It's awesome. It is
Yeah.
a very awesome video game. So it's sad that I just couldn't get into Final Fantasy 14 in time to have a judgment on those systems. Because there probably is something really engaging and really deep there. And not only that, but has, again, the lineage of Final Fantasy behind it and all that fun. But you're right. If we go by, it's the Final Fantasy, I'll remember that when we get to later in the bracket.
Yeah. But I mean, I unfortunately gotta make the same argument. As much as I love Final Fantasy 14, I can go on and on and on about that game. There's one place that I can't play Final Fantasy 14, and that's on here. Take it out on the road with me. Yeah, it's as much as it pains me, I have to concede this one to Final Fantasy 1. I love Final Fantasy 14 to death. Final Fantasy 1 is that much closer to my heart and carries so many more memories with regards to the game. So in this particular case, I will definitely say Final Fantasy 1, I think, should advance.
I don't see anyone
In
being upset
agreeance?
by that.
Clean sweep.
All right. So the next one, we have got not Monster's Pick, as I so mistakenly made on the initial draft of this script. So we've got Maverick's pick, Sonic the Hedgehog, versus, what do you know? It's one of my picks, Pokemon Black and White. Mav, what do you got?
look, it's Pokemon. I'm up against. Where's my white flag? Look, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Sonic doesn't stand a chance in this. The snowball's chance in hell in regards to this. Look, my whole thing with Sonic is I remember having a Genesis sitting on a concrete floor in the basement playing it. It's a nostalgia factor. It inspired a lot of Sonic games. There's movies coming out, all of that. But it's Pokemon.
Mhm.
Sonic cannot compete with Pokemon.
As beloved
Ryder,
as the franchise
you
is,
can go ahead and make your arguments, but here's the thing. I can't. There's no way it's going to win. The way that Pokemon is, the fan base behind it alone, so much bigger than Sonic's. it's a nostalgia factor for me for Sonic on why it's even on this list in the first place. Right.
And I mean, it's got a great speedrunning community behind it too. Yes, I talk about it a lot because our particular community here in Saskatoon is very very much thriving with more and more speedrunners as of late. And it's a really really fun thing to watch. If you've never seen speedrunning before, go watch speedrunning of all different types. You will absolutely have a blast. It's great stuff. But yeah, I mean that's the same thing too. I mean, I've got a lot of memories with Sonic the Hedgehog, but yeah, Pokemon is exactly that. It's Pokemon. You know, not talking about the original 151, but we are talking about Black and White, where they revolutionized the systems that they built themselves upon. They took their existing systems, made them better. They made the graphics a lot better. They made the gameplay a whole lot better. They added more things for you to do, and more different ways for you to go about getting through the Elite Four, getting through, you know, the final secret bosses, you know, getting through not just Team Rocket. What were the other two teams? It was Team Magma. Was it Team Magma?
Yep.
Is that right? Team Magma and
You're right.
Team. What was the other one? I thought there was two of them. I'm having a brain fart without looking it up here.
I'm checking for you. Yeah, Magma for sure.
Is it Team Plasma? No, that doesn't sound right. Maybe that's a different game.
Team Magma, Team Aqua. That's Black and White 2. Could be the same.
Could be the same, yeah. But anyways, having a, you know, a quote unquote bad guy to go up against, and not just one of them, but like three of them at that. And then, like I said, yeah, you've got the Elite Four, you've got all the gym leaders, like you've got so many things to strive for in that game. It's hard to beat in this particular case. So yeah, obviously I'm gonna go with Pokemon Black and White in this particular battle.
I can't argue with it. I can't. Heck, Sonic made one with a dice roll with Mortal Kombat.
One that we had to go back and correct after after we reviewed the video.
Shame.
I mean, Mortal Kombat versus Pokemon Black would be an interesting conversation for sure.
I think Pokemon is still coming out.
I think
Mortal
so
Kombat
too. I mean,
1. He would have said Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I would have been right beside Rob duking it out.
All right, so Pokemon Black and White is going to advance in this next round. All right, so that is the West Division. We're over into the East Division brackets now. So things are starting to wind down here. So here's another fun one here. It's not one of my picks this time, I promise. But we've got Monster's pick, Super Mario World versus Maverick's pick, Witcher 3. Two absolute juggernauts ready to duke it out. Let's start with Mav.
Man, okay, look, Super Mario has a story, and that's fine. It's good. It's entertaining, great for its time. But this is The Witcher 3. Like, again, I've talked about it before. 16 different endings that you can go after. There's a ton of side characters that are there that impact the story. The combat, sure, takes a little getting used to. I've never had an issue with it. The way that you can approach every situation is different. There's so much behind it. There's been expansions that have been added on that the developers have, again, made a reasonable price and added so much. They could have made it a completely separate game, but they added to it. The creatures that you're fighting, you're taking on everything from spirits to griffins. And every single decision that you make in the game impacts the ending. The relationship you build with Cirilla, like when she's a part of the story, like it's such a heartwarming story of him starting out looking for Yennefer, looking for Cirilla, and trying to get his family together, basically. And at every turn, you can make a decision. Even walking down a certain path, you go left instead of right. You're going to find a different quest. You're going to find a different story. There's so much in that world. I understand Mario is beloved, but there's so much behind The Witcher. The lore, the character development in this game. If I had to pick one game to play for the rest of my life, it would be The Witcher 3. Hands down. Mario, as I said, it's great. It's got a bit of a story, but it's the same game over and over and over and over again. Witcher changes with every playthrough. That's my argument.
Witcher
Sure,
changes
combat's not
16
great.
times. 16
Sure.
times.
Yeah.
It
But
doesn't
you know
change
what?
every playthrough. It changes 16 times exactly.
Even the addition of Gwent. I don't know how much time I spent playing Gwent in that game.
That was a failure. Gwent is a
In the
failure.
game, not no. I'm saying in the game, not the additional games that they brought out. Gwent in the actual game is amazing. It's fantastic. It's so much fun. People have lost hours playing that game. Sorry, there's no way that I can let Mario win with this one. There's not a chance I can.
Well, it's a good thing it's not up to you.
Yeah.
That's right. Remember that. Sure. If your argument's always this game has a story, video games are interactive. It's how video games feel. I can tell you firsthand, Witcher's combat is bad to me. To me, be incredible to you. Witcher's combat is bad. Not engaging. It's not the best in class even in that genre. You can love the lore all you want. You can read those books. That's what you want to take away from it.
It's not the same.
Mario needs save the princess. That's your end goal. What's the fun of it? Incredible level design. The tightest platforming mechanics ever. Any 2D game you play emulates Super Mario. Especially the modern Super Mario World. The jump from NES to Super Nintendo was huge. Huge. They're still doing it. They're still making 2D Marios. And they still crush in sales. Crush. I can hold up pictures of anyone from The Witcher and Mario. Who do you think people are going to know? Mario. Hands down Mario. And for all you Yoshi lovers who heard my spiel, Yoshi still sucks. Still bad.
I was just going to ask.
He's still awful. But it expanded on an already huge cast under the Mario universe. I think that's platforming perfection in the 2D space. I'm okay because I will fist fight you over Mass Effect versus The Witcher. You won't have a chance if your argument is story. I will let you have The Witcher go on. But there's two people here. And I know one is definitely going to be in my camp for Super Mario World. Isn't that right, Rob?
I was just going to say, Rob, you want to take over on that one?
Because actually, I think this was my pick for Super Mario World. But yeah, I got to go with Monster on this one.
Yeah, that's, man. Thinking about it, especially when it comes to the
you guys
games
have
of
made
all
it a
time.
point. You guys have made it a point every single time. This decision impacts the story. That's been a main selling factor with some of these games.
And that's
the love
where
that's behind
my
it.
argument is going.
Yeah.
I am a sucker for story when it comes to these things. Now, that being said, I haven't played The Witcher 3. I didn't even finish the very first Witcher. Because the combat is bad.
Oh, that's
much to Monster's point, the combat is bad. But
for me, Maverick obviously enjoys the combat. You're allowed to.
Yeah, I hated the combat. Loved the story though. I love the Witcher series. The one thing that Super Mario doesn't have.
Season 3.
I mean, and I mean, up to that point, there's the one thing that Witcher has that Super Mario doesn't. Henry Cavill. If they would have cast Henry Cavill as Super Mario in the animated movie, maybe we'd have a different conversation. But no, they had to put Chris friggin' Pratt in there. Love the guy.
Yeah, but Super Mario has Bob Hoskins, so. I mean,
Right.
No, we don't talk about that one. No, no.
We're talking about it.
John Leguizamo was the only thing that saved that movie from complete failure.
I'd say I'd even take a dice roll.
It's going to have to be a dice roll.
And it's going to be a dice roll because if I had to choose between the two, as much as I love Super Mario World, I like 64 a little bit better. But in terms of putting these two
we're thinking long game in the bracket, yeah, absolutely.
Like even if this was the grand finals between these particular two titles, I would still be going Witcher just for the story, the lore, and how expansive it is.
For me, it's simply cultural impact that Super Mario World had.
You don't think that Witcher doesn't have that? Like,
I don't.
Not as much.
Not
as much as Super Mario does.
okay, dice
So
roll.
there's no Super Mario World. There's no Super Mario 64.
Okay.
Much like the Final Fantasy conversation.
So I guess I think we're going dice roll then again.
I'm good doing a dice roll. Oh yeah.
Odds, Witcher 3, evens, Super Mario World.
All right.
16.
That's an evens. Super Mario World by virtue of the dice roll.
You know what? Here's the thing. Even if Witcher 3 did win, I would still be siding with you for Mass Effect 2.
Yeah. Yes. You see, that's my guy. That's my guy. Here we go.
Speaking of Mass Effect 2, as we jump into our next battle, it's a Monster Mass Effect 2. This is your pick. Going head-to-head against my pick, the original 1993 Doom. Now, I'm trying to figure out an argument for this one here because I know Mass Effect 2, and I love Mass Effect 2. I love the whole Mass Effect series, except for Andromeda.
Mm-hmm.
We won't talk about that one.
Oh, we don't. It didn't happen.
Never happened.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Doom, the game that absolutely revolutionized the entire FPS genre. From the start of Wolfenstein, ID Software took this game, polished it up a little bit, added some sick music tracks to it, which, by the way, Mick Gordon, who's actually no longer with that particular company, he's now freelance. Took that music and absolutely ran with it. I would make the argument that besides the fact that Doom basically started the whole revolution of first-person shooters, is basically the memories and, again, the cultural impact. How many people from that day and age, you still talk about first-person shooters today. That's the one thing that they're always going to go back to and going, you know what? I remember the original Doom. I remember playing the shareware version of it, back when shareware was a big thing. They played Doom. They played Doom 2. They played the hidden levels. They played Ultimate Doom. That whole template basically started an absolute revolution in the first-person genre. After Doom came out, Apogee Entertainment, took that template and applied it to a couple of their games with Blake Stone, another absolutely fantastic game. But Doom was its template. Like the gunplay, the creatures, the heartbeat and excitement that you got when you went into a dark room. You started looking around for light switches, and you can hear these monsters behind the wall just waiting for you. That's the kind of memories that I have with Doom. So, Monster, let's talk about Mass Effect 2.
Mass Effect 2 is just one of the. If we want to play the story card, some of the best science fiction storytelling ever. It is it's a competent third-person shooter. It's not the best, especially from like an era where Gears of War was a video game and breaking out with much tighter controls. But what Mass Effect 2? It is BioWare to a T. It is when that's my kind of role playing. Being Commander Shepard and building that squad, it's everything I want modern Star Wars to be. Which obviously you guys should know, modern Star Wars is bad. Mass Effect was filling a gap. It was doing it right. Like I said, Knights of the Old Republic, their whole library, but Mass Effect 2 is special. Mass Effect 2 is a defining game in a generation of consoles. It sucks because I play a lot of first-person shooters as well. I don't have them without Doom. But if I had to go back and play one, it'd be Mass Effect 2. I wouldn't play OG Doom at this point when Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal is a game. Things only got better. The shooters. There's a shooter on this list that is better than Doom. It's coming up. It's mechanically better. And it could be because, again, newer, better technology. Before its time, yeah, Doom, revolutionary. Mass Effect 2 to me is special. And again, I've got some wins. Super Mario World beat Witcher 3. So I'm leaving happy. The story boys are getting the boot because we're saying gameplay over story, which I love that argument. I love the idea that Doom is damn near storyless.
And yet here I am. I've been arguing for story for a couple of these games. You'd be like, well, this
Which
game's
is-
going up against another game with story. Well, no, I want gameplay this time.
See, but it's hard because the things you want to remember, right? But like Mass Effect 2 is still a very fun game to play because they trim the fat of one. The micromanaging is just gone. Everything is streamlined just to get you into the science fiction story, into those worlds with your crew
This is
to
my
fight
argument.
it out.
I have a puppy.
It's a dog, Maverick.
I've seen her before. That's Lily.
I would just, yeah, like I said, a game that I would go back and want to play for the first time again. Mass Effect 2 is it.
All right, Mav,
But
thoughts?
I'm not mad. Again, it's one of those ones where I'm just like, I see how important both are, but I don't feel like I'm losing.
So, for me, gameplay needs to be there a little bit. But story is what keeps me engaged. That being said, I've played Doom. I enjoyed it. But I know Mass Effect 2. I've never played it. I'm familiar with it. I know the depth of the story. I know how beloved it is. I'm going Mass Effect 2.
I gotta go with Doom. It's like I said the other week.
Dice
It's like I
out.
said the
That,
other week.
that dice is gonna get a workout tonight. That's for sure.
Can I just keep the dice out? Like,
Might as well.
Might be a good
Okay.
idea.
Yeah.
I just like
Mass
going in
Effect
there, running
2,
gun.
even. Doom, odd.
And Doom is an odd one, that's for sure.
8.
That's Mass Effect 2. So Mass Effect 2 by the dice roll. All right.
I think if we do a bracket again, first one per franchise.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, imagine having to go through an entire Super Mario and Final Fantasy gauntlet just to get to where you are.
It's stuff like Mario Kart didn't even get put on there. You could say
Actually, I'm
Mario Party.
surprised.
I'd say you're wrong, but you could say it.
I don't think I'd put Mario Party on there. I would have definitely put Mario Kart on there if I'd have thought of it, but it is what it is, right? All right, so we have another couple of classic juggernauts coming up here. So we're back to one of my picks again with Warcraft 2, which, by the way, I just picked up on goodoldgames.com for $10. Bad letter edition.
Hey,
Versus BioShock. Now, this one I believe was Monster's pick as well. All right, so Warcraft 2, like I said, still available now. I don't know how much of an argument I can make on this one, though, comparing, because I've also played BioShock, and I absolutely loved BioShock. But Warcraft 2, amazing story, super fun gameplay, lot of memories built on this one. Not just for myself playing through the single-player campaign, but playing at LAN parties and having 4 friends or 6 friends go head-to-head on these big giant maps, building bases, going and attacking each other. But StarCraft kind of did that one better, personally, I think. But
it to me, it's just fantasy for myself. That also doesn't help. Not a huge fantasy guy, but
see, and I've always been kind of that fantasy guy. And the music. What can I say about the music? I've kind of caught myself going back and listening to the OST on YouTube every so often, just because the music was that memorable. That's about my argument for Warcraft 2. So, Monster, BioShock. What are your thoughts?
would you kindly all agree with me that BioShock is the game that's going to win here? That's how we're going to play it.
Yeah.
I think as games progress more story-wise, you have to remember too, Maverick, me growing up, story just wasn't an element that was always got to be there, because the medium has just changed so much. It's great it did, My motivation has always been how the game plays, and the combination of plasmids and weapons together. Again, you don't even shoot in Bioshock if you choose. You don't have to. Gunplay doesn't have to be a part of the game. That's your choice. Player choice is good in Bioshock. Also, the choice of are you going to harvest or are you going to save little sisters?
I
Bring
mean, the
that
one
moral
thing,
bit of it too.
and the one thing you can't really do in Warcraft 2 is you can't lure enemies into a pool of water and then shoot electricity at it.
Right?
Yep.
That was
That-
that was always my favorite thing to do in that game.
And I think of like a game world that feels lived in. Bioshock's one of the best examples of it. Like Rapture is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unbelievable to look at. It is twisted. It is dark. Things happen there, and you see it. You feel the weight of what happened in Rapture as you progress through it. But again, just competent, light RPG mechanics. Nothing too deep. Anyone can go in and find a playstyle they want to play. Yeah, Bioshock to me is also one of those special. It's from my favorite generation of games too. I think that 360 and PlayStation 3 era has
Yeah,
got some of the finest games ever made in it.
and
I think
just
Bioshock fits with that class.
and just hearing the crackle of the vinyl on some of those record players you can hear playing off in the distance.
Yep.
I don't know, that stirs up some old memories from me, from my grandparents. Same thing, like playing records on an old record player and hearing that again in the Bioshock environment was so well done. Yeah, that's I'm definitely of the mindset that I think Bioshock should be advancing in this part of the bracket. I will very, very happily concede in this one.
I would tend to agree in this case.
I was going to say Bioshock anyway. But
Yeah.
it was one of my two favorite
Warcraft-
games I played last year. So
Warcraft
Yeah.
was a great game. I had some fun with it. I haven't completed Bioshock, but the thing is, Warcraft 2, it didn't bring a whole lot new to the table either, right? You said it yourself, StarCraft did it better. My question is, why the hell didn't we put StarCraft on this list?
It was on my list, but I had to trim it down.
I'd say like it's nice to see Blizzard representation. It's like
old school Blizzard
the history.
representation.
Yeah. Like I mean, I think there's a lot of people who would say like there's certain eras of even WoW that would be warranted to put World of Warcraft on the list.
Pre-cap.
Diablo 2, like Lord of Destruction, could have been on that list as well.
It was on my list too, and I had to cut it. Ugh, I felt so bad doing that.
Yeah, like D2 is that's video game, but I think it's the fun of it, right? But Bioshock in a generation where things were shifting, I'm like, what? This is what we're doing now? This is what we can do? But first and foremost, like if it's not engaging to play, your story can be incredible. There's plenty of walking simulators I absolutely think are trash. The mechanics are everything. And everyone, you guys play Firewatch? Who's played Firewatch?
Can't say I've heard of that one, actually.
You love stories. The internet seems to think it's the most brilliant story ever. Who here has played Heavy Rain? Heavy Rain story is god awful.
I don't.
God awful.
I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
Heavy Rain story is the poorest man's Seven. Someone watched Seven and was just like, I can write a movie like David Fincher. They couldn't. And mechanics they put in the game, awful. I was so excited for it, Maverick. Got home from a trip, went right to the store, bought it, purchased it, played it through, and went, oh no. Oh no.
What have they done?
Story wise, like I get why you guys like it's a good motivating factor as well. Medium still at the end of the day. You need to have a controller or a keyboard in your hand. You need to manipulate it. This is video games. This is a big part of them. This is the joy we get. If not, we would all just watch playthroughs. You want to see the story? Don't even have to pick up a controller, spend $90. Do it because you want to play it. You want to feel it. So it's hard in these cases, but thank God Bioshock is just so good to play. It just happens where it's just like it's a good motivating path to stay on. That the gameplay is so good and the story is also just as good. You have to go hand in hand, or just have really great gameplay mechanics and a god awful story. I'll still like it. I'll still like playing it. I'll just be like, this is something you don't need to pay
You're
attention.
proving that with Suicide Squad.
That story is also not a failure. Is it brilliant? No. I'll be the first to admit it's not brilliant by any means. But the gameplay loop is what's keeping me there. You're right.
Yeah,
100%.
And that brings us into our final match of the evening. Speaking of gameplay mechanics versus story, we have Monster's pick of the OG Pokemon Red and Blue versus Irish Bandit Rob's Juggernaut pick of the OG Final Fantasy VII. So, you know what? The Irish Bandit Rob, you go first.
Okay, you want to talk about good story and good gameplay mechanics? Final Fantasy VII. Great cast of characters. Like I was saying last week, all the characters are developed so well. You have a great backstory with Cloud, with everything he goes through. You have great side characters in Tifa and Barrett being there to support Cloud the whole way through. You have just a heartbreaking story with Aerith. I love everything that they did with her character in the original game. I love what they're doing in the remake, but that's a different story for a different day. Yes, the materia system was not that great.
Not that great.
I will 100% agree with you on that one. Because it was confusing when you had like a magic materia and the sport materia and you couldn't put them together. But other than that, music, graphics, everything all worked with the game. It is a cultural icon. It revolutionized JRPGs to where they are now. Every game, practically every JRPG wants to be like Final Fantasy VII. They all can't be. But is it, and like I said last week, is it perfect? Absolutely not. I will go on record and say it is not a perfect game. But it is a fantastic game, well done, made with a lot of love from the developers who are still working on the remake project as of today. It's a great game that holds a whole lot of space in my heart for just how excellent it is.
All right, and over to Monster, who's going to talk about the beginnings of Pokemon.
I was going to just sing the whole song again. Probably the way it should have went. Hey, I think there's more people who play Japanese role-playing games because of Pokemon than they ever do Final Fantasy. I don't think that could be argued at all. There's 9 playable characters in Final Fantasy VII. OG, correct?
Correct.
There's 150 in Pokemon. The depth of those systems by just having that many playable characters is incredible. You're right. Pokemon's story is almost non-existent. Until you hit Lavender Town and there's some really sad stuff. But it is not as deep as Final Fantasy VII. Be the first here to admit it. You finished Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII is done. I beat the Elite Four, and I have Ryder, I have Maverick, I have anyone else with a Game Boy and a link cable to test my skills against. It doesn't just end. It's a turn-based game that you can play against your friends. It just opened everything.
Why
Did it get expanded?
Why do we keep forgetting Pokemon Stadium as well? I brought that up too.
It's the same game. They just put it on a platform where we can all just sit on the same TV.
I thought that was brilliant. I'm arguing for you here.
It's an accessory to what was so great. And Pokemon still, I think the impact for the Japanese role-playing genre has been impacted more from Pokemon than it ever has been Final Fantasy. I would prefer to play that turn-based RPG. But obviously, you would prefer to play Final Fantasy VII.
I mean, I'll play both, but for story purposes, if I want to sit down and just experience a good story and play and battle
and cry his eyes out.
And cry my eyes out.
Hey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm the first to admit
I still
if
think
you get
Ryder
that
should
emotion,
make his
I
last.
think that's great.
I think Ryder should still make his last stream. Will Irish Bandit cry?
I'm pretty sure we all know the answer to that question. We'll hopefully find out tomorrow night.
But Ryder and Maverick, what do you think? Like, I mean,
Mav, what are your thoughts on this one?
I've played both. I love both.
I'm in that same boat.
The issue is, for me, it's always been story over gameplay. But it's still a tough decision for me too, because I do remember trading Pokemon and all of that, and
that's
going
fair.
over to a friend's place and playing Pokemon Stadium and all of that. It's a tough call for me here. And for the longest, like I've been staring at this bracket for a while, and for a long time, I've been wanting to say Pokemon. The issue is I'm still a story guy, and
say you're salty about Witcher 3. Just say you're salty about Witcher 3. I don't want to hear this story guy nonsense. Just say you're salty.
Hey man, I told you I would back you up with Mass Effect versus Witcher 3. I don't think I can do it with Pokemon this time around. It kills me to see Final Fantasy on here 3 times going into the semifinals, because I do think that this is a lot, but I got to give it to Final Fantasy.
Well, I mean, in fairness, one Final Fantasy cannibalized another, so I mean, there is that.
Mm-hmm.
But goddamn, we're going to a dice roll again, because as much as I love Final Fantasy, this game, you know how much I talk about this game.
Judas.
Okay.
You know how much I talk about this game.
Final Fantasy 7 odds, Pokemon evens.
I just want to see it roll a 7.
5.
Odds.
That's an odd.
So Final Fantasy 7 will advance on the dice roll. I didn't even get to make my argument on that.
Also,
we just went straight to the dice roll. Honestly, like when it comes to, like I said, Final Fantasy 7, this game is going to have a very, very special place in my heart for years to come, because it's that fantastic. Not just the characters, not just the story, but the music is so iconic.
Yep.
Like, I literally have the music from the game in a Spotify playlist that I play in my car every morning when I drive to work, because it's that good. But my argument for Pokemon Blue and Red was, you're not done when you're done playing the game. I grew up on Pokemon Blue and Red as much as I grew up on Final Fantasy VII. I grew up on the Pokemon card game. I grew up on the Pokemon TV show. It's just there's more that I grew up on when it comes to Pokemon as compared to Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII will always have the better music, but Pokemon, when it comes to the Blue and Red, the OG, like I said, when it came to turn-based JRPGs, that's one that I will always turn back to. Even now, like playing Scarlet and Violet, terrible as the game was, not for the most part, but it doesn't hold a candle. It doesn't hold a candle to the previous games. Maybe they'll do better with next year's release, but who knows?
Pokemon fandom is crazier than Final Fantasies. Playing the bad ones. And we admit they're bad, but we still play them.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy fans got to defend it all the way through.
But in the same case,
people who are just
we can also admit there were bad ones too.
It wasn't.
But if we're comparing Japanese fandoms, though, look at the frickin' billboards that they put out for Final Fantasy.
Oh, I know.
Like in Tokyo, like their version of Times Square. Like, some of the billboards they put up there are insanity, like pure insanity. They go way over the top on these things. Still, I've got way more memories on Pokemon than I do Final Fantasy VII. But as it turns out, the dice roll has decided that Final Fantasy VII will proceed to the next part of the bracket. Man, we've had to do a lot of dice rolls tonight. I was kind of expecting it though. But at the same time, we've got there's going to be a lot of fun discussions for next week. So we are down to the final 8 games. So next week we are going to have Final Fantasy VIII taking on Super Mario 64. We've got the original Final Fantasy 1 taking on Pokemon Black and White. We've got Super Mario World going up against Mass Effect 2. And then lastly, we've got BioShock versus Final Fantasy 7. These
that one's gonna
battles
hurt.
are going to be bloodbaths. And I can't wait to discuss these. These are going to be a whole lot of fun to talk about next week. So, with that being said, it is time to set the controllers down. It is time to power down. Thank you all so much for tuning into this. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe on the channel. You guys have probably seen the pop-ups coming all the way through. Guys, leave us a comment below. Tell us what you think. What game do you think should have been on this list? Which games in our arguments, which ones do you think should have actually made it through? I'd love to hear from you guys as well. But before we go, guys, don't forget to check out Monster Hospital on the In My House podcast. All of his information will be in the description below, as long as the rest of us is here. We've also got Irish Bandit Rob, who is streaming and posting videos over on YouTube. He's been going hard on some of his favorite games, including one that he made his defense for this evening with the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Collection. So make sure you guys go check him out. And lastly, we've also got Agent Maverick, who you can find over on Twitch, as well as over on Facebook, on a page called the New Geek Corner. So he talks a lot more about not just video games, but he also talks a lot about movies and books and things like that.
Side note, I finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth tonight. I will be getting a review up on that likely tonight as soon as we're done recording. So check that out. I am going to be streaming a new game Friday. I am off on Friday, so at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, I will be streaming Rise of the Ronin. Not Rise of the Robin like we've been calling it, but Rise of the Ronin.
That's
Rise of the
another
Robin.
side
That's the
note.
name of the stream. 11 o'clock, Rise of the Robin. Agent Maverick will be playing it. I'll be viewing it. Agent Maverick will be playing it.
Exactly. And you guys can also catch myself over on Twitch as well. I do stream 3 days a week, usually Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. I also will be finishing up the first playthrough of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where I will then go through a second playthrough, because we do have the hard mode. We do have a platinum trophy to try and collect on that. So you can find me over on Twitch. You can also find me over on YouTube. So if you happen to miss the live streams, I will be posting my VODs over on the YouTube channel as well. So make sure you guys check those out. So be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to follow everybody here on the page. Thank you all very, very much for tuning in to the Level 1 Lounge podcast. We'll see you guys next week. And until then, take care.